So, in a recent podcast episode that I was recording with Izzy Moore, we were talking about the stuff we stitch, and we chatted about things like plastic and metal and paper and other crazy things that we've stitched in the past, even balsa wood. And then as we were chatting, one of the things we realised you can also stitch is nothing. You can stitch over space. And we were talking about how if you stitch over a little circular hole in fabric, you can create flower type motifs. And of course a podcast isn't terribly visual, so it was quite hard to describe what we meant, so I thought I'd put together a little video, and these are, I don't know if you can see them, little flowery things that we're going to make. So let's crack on. So what you're going to need to make these little flowery motifs is, let's get this out of the way, a piece of something like calico or old sheeting, something that you're going to throw away afterwards. So, and also one of these clip type machine embroidery frames, because we're going to be free machining. Although to be honest, you don't have to free machine this, thinking about it. You can do it with your foot on and teeth up and everything else, but it's easier to manoeuvre the frame, etc. And we're going to draw some holes. So they're about, I'm going to make them about 2 inches across, 5 centimetres. I'm just going to draw around the end of my cotton reel. And obviously, rather than just do one in the middle of this great big bit of fabric, I'm going to try and fit in more than one. So I probably can get 3 in comfortably. So I'm just going to draw around those. Very quickly. Just has to be quite rough. There we go. And then I'm going to frame that piece of fabric. So I separate the two parts of the frame, put the plastic bit underneath my fabric, and then clip together the metal part to hold the fabric secure. And then I'm going to go over to my machine. So I'm here at my machine, I'm ready for free machining. I've brought my bobbin thread up to the surface. If you're new to free machining, then I do have other videos how to do it, but for this one I'm just assuming you can free machine. So pop down my presser foot, and what I'm going to do is stitch around these circles just to reinforce the holes. I admit I don't always do this when I'm working this out, but I thought I would this time. I do it all by the book, so off I go. And I'm just going to go round a couple of times for each hole and go around each one and reinforce it. So I'm sure you don't need to watch me do that. So here you can see I've just stitched around each of these circles, and I'm going to work on them one at a time. So what I'm going to do is cut out the centre of these circles, but I'm only going to do one at a time. Rather than cut them all out, I could cut them all out. I don't think it'd make that much difference, but I'm just going to do one at a time. So I'm just going to get my scissors in there and cut around the inside, which is easier said than done with a camera in the way, but I'm sure you get the idea. I'm sure this is going out of shot, isn't it? But there you get the idea. So I've cut out basically a hole, and I'm going back to the machine. So here I am back at the machine, and bobbin thread up to the surface again. Let's put my presser foot down. I'm ready to start to stitch, and I'm going to stitch right across the middle of this hole. And the machine has no idea whether there's fabric there or not, so it will just stitch as normal, locking the top and bottom stitches together to create like a little twisted cord almost. And I'm going to go back and forth, creating almost like spokes of a wheel, just going across the diagonal. It will get quite dense in the centre because you're going across the same place over and over again. If it gets too dense in the middle, you can just stitch into the middle, anchor the stitch and back out again until you get the density you want, but it'll become apparent as I go along. So let's just start stitching, see what happens. A couple of stitches to anchor it. get a better angle here. I'm just there we go. So there you are. I'm sure you get the idea there. You can see that there, how I'm going across. And I'll just carry on until it gets as dense as I want. So I've finished this one here now. And all we do next is cut them out. But because I've got 3 within the same frame, I'm going to complete all 3 first. I find that if you cut this out now, it just leaves that hole in the fabric, which weakens the fabric so that it's not as taut and tense. So you might as well just finish all of them on the piece of fabric first. So that's what I'm going to do. I've now finished the stitching on all 3 of my circles, and now it's time to cut them out. It's easier if you leave them in the frame to cut out than trying to take it out. So I'm just going to take the scissors to this one and cut close to the fabric edge all the way around, releasing those threads. And holding on to it as you get to the last few to keep it taut. It's easier to cut. And there. Oh, not quite, just one last little thread to cut. And there we are. We have like a little flower, and I used a plain thread on the back, plain pink, and then a variegated on the top, so it gives it a slightly different look which way round you put it. And they can be attached in the centre, you know, perhaps a couple of beads, something like that, onto your work. And there you have it. So as you can see, they do look rather sweet, especially if you mass them together with different colours. These 2 different types, I've got loose thread there, but you can always trim them if you've got loose threads. And these 2 different types, I've used the same variegated thread on the top, just a pink thread in the bobbin here and a purple thread in the bobbin for that one. And as I say, if you group them together, they look rather lovely stitched down on embroideries. Mostly I see them used as flowers, but I've also seen them used as fireworks in a picture before now. But however you end up using them, do have fun.